Hello and welcome to Retail Is podcast. I am Kylie Ross Sybert and I'm joined today by Joey Morgan, and our special guest is Adam Connolly from Capstan Bar Brewing Company. Welcome, Adam, to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you for coming on. Now, Capstan is based in Hampton. Is that right? Yes.
That is correct.
Maybe you could just explain to us, a little bit about who you are and what Capstan Bar Brewing Company is all about.
Okay. Well, we are, as mentioned, we are Capstan Bar Brewing Company. We're located at 2036 Exploration Way in Hampton, 23666. We're about 5 minutes away from Langley's West Gate. So right off of like cross streets or like Commander Shepherd and North Campus. Literally a stone's throw to the Lumen Apartments that they're just building right there. But we as a business, Capstan Bar Brewing Company is my mother, brother, and I. It is an entirely family-owned and operated business. My brother's is our brewmaster, and he's been brewing since I was 14, and he was 16 when our folks first got him his first homebrew kit.
Drinking it at the time too?
That was certainly the case. I mean, I guess, like the folks knew that it was a passion on his part, and they understood that there's really not too much, I guess, trouble one could get into with the potential like 4 to 5 gallons of homebrewed beer. But with that said, I mean, in a way, I mean, we can get further into that down the road, but I mean, like teaching home brewing is almost like the perfect life skill lesson, because especially as a young person, because you have attention to detail, following a recipe, patience, because all of your efforts and work that day, you can't drink that beer for a week or two or more, depending upon your style. Then you also have to be like fastidious with your cleaning and your sanitization. I mean, to have an actual drinkable product at the end of your efforts is an incredible feat. And I mean, for a 16-year-old, like there's actually, there is an argument to say that it might actually, serve every person a good purpose to actually, learn some of these life lessons in brewing.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, so he's been, brewing for, a long time. Like he's now in his mid 40s. So, starting at 16, then going into, current, like as of now, he's right down there right now, like brewing away, and I can smell malts and hops, swirling through my nose here, which is really fun. But I guess days before his 21st birthday, or actually days after, he left for Chicago to get a professional brewer's certificate from the Siebel Institute of Brewing Technology in Chicago. And that's kind of where he professionally cut his teeth in the brewing field. And it was a professional brewer's certificate. He was also able to intern at Goose Island Brewing Company in Chicago. It was at that time an independently owned brewery based in Chicago. And they did really good work, and he was able to kind of get that professional brewer's feel, where it definitely differs from home brewing. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences for sure when brewing at scale. And then after that, when he graduated that, he then not only, furthered his expertise, but now had the certificate to back it. He then was able to help open some brew pub and other craft microbrewery up in Northern Virginia area. So like right near Arlington, Virginia. And I believe the first one was Alexandria. Then during the process of opening the secondary, which was their production brewery, more or less just a warehouse with brewing equipment in it, and actually attached to a building with a great concert hall. So it was actually an incredible kind of experience. But during that process, they ordered a very true German brewing system. And with that purchase, the company in Germany sent along a diploma-wielding Braumeister to come and pretty much show the ropes of the brewing system, but as well as kind of just give the heads up of how to make sure all the parts and pieces fit together perfectly. It was during that time when like they were epoxying the floors, and like this fellow was not feeling too good because of the fumes and everything, when my brother's boss was like, hey, you take the Braumeister to the original brew pub and just brew on the small system while we're finishing the floors, which took a couple weeks or so. So during that time frame, Jonathan was able to just soak up knowledge from a diploma wielding Braumeister, and never looked back as far as that. I mean, so then after that, he right around 1998 is, the dates are kind of leading together, but right about 98, he then picked up a job as an assistant brewer in Fresno, California for Bulldog Brewing Company, who is no longer in business, but their sister company, Steelhead, still is. And within about I would say less than a month, he was then promoted to head brewer because he was far outpacing their head brewer that they chose at the time. So he rose quickly to that, and that was like 98. And then as early as year 2000, he then was able to start not only developing his own recipes, but as well as following the corporate, I guess their brewmasters' recipes and such. But it was a recipe that he created from the ground up that actually took him gold medal in the year 2000 at the Great American Beer Festival. And that was his own baby. It was actually, he titled it, I believe, the Aztec Amber, which was about a 6.8% American amber that he brewed with puffed amaranth, which is a Central American staple grain. And he was really interested at that time in trying to, push the envelope of brewing, because I mean, if you can think back into the year 2000 and the late 90s, it's like you had a very few options regarding beer as far as like kind of pinkies out high quality, other than the usual suspects like Sam Adams or Goose Island in particular, or some other fun ones that unfortunately have since gone away. However, so that was kind of his progress. And then eventually, recently after getting that medal, then he actually left the brewing field and then went to college for a degree in archaeology. And that's kind of where he was in the brewery field, got out of the brewery field, obtained his undergrad and then later master's in archaeology, which then brought him to the most recent assignment before we opened the brewery. He was the lead archaeologist for Yorktown Battlefield and Jamestown Plantation for over a decade. And then we kind of made the choice to open the family business and really kind of, dig deep into what his passion is and what, really he was, put on this fine earth to do, because his products are fantastic. His skills are amazing. And, it's definitely in batch after batch and quality of a 7-barrel system, where some of the products that we have today, which we might have opened our doors with almost 3 years ago, taste exactly like the day we opened our doors. And that's really hard to do in a 7-barrel system in a small, microbrewery. So that's my brother in a nutshell. Then my mom's the owner officially, with my brother and I as interested stake partners. And we all kind of divvied up the ownership responsibilities. My ma is officially in North Carolina, so she's not in the state. So it really comes down to the ownership, and the management is my brother and I. And then for my part, I've worn many hats, but now I'm general manager and part owner of our fine little humble spot here. And but I've had everything from teaching environmental science, X-ray management. I mean, there's a lot going on, but I was kind of called to this position as to by the family, and was like, we need you to pull everything all together. So Jonathan is the maestro behind the curtain, like the wizard, making the products, and I was kind of tasked in the front of the house to assemble not only a really warm and inviting atmosphere, which we really do have in the tap room below, and but as well as assemble a good staff and just make sure everything happens. If it's fermentable flowable fluid, Jonathan's on it, he'll handle it, and all is good. And then on our front of the house side, we just make sure to do our best to help promote and distribute, as well as sell his products with good events, and again a staff that kind of knows almost everybody's name that comes through and tries to treat everybody like family.
How are you promoting the events, or how are you promoting Capstan right now?
Right now, we've done a lot of, research regarding our new customer base. So everybody that comes in, where the staff is like, oh, hey, you're new. How did you hear about us? So a resounding over 98% of these people are word of mouth. So we've had to kind of just figure out how can we best focus on a word of mouth experience, because that seems to be the majority of the people that are coming in. So with that said, what we tried to do is with staff meetings, and we've definitely succeeded, or continue to succeed, is that the moment that someone walks through the door, especially if it's their first time or their 50th time, they are literally treated like family. I mean, it is beyond the fact to give them that experience, and then because we are off the beaten path. We are not on a foot trafficable road. We are not if you are in kind of our neck of the woods, you're here for most likely us. And so a lot of times people are where am I? What am I doing? Is there a brewery here? They find the door, then they walk through the door, and they're like, oh wow, this is a massive change from the outside, stepping into a Edison LED lit wonderland. And the vibe is smooth. We got some tunes playing on the overhead sound system, and then they step up to the ordering station and then try the beer, and they're just like, dude, this is amazing. Where have you been at all my life? And it's cliche-ish, but it's so true. I mean, it would be kind of wild to ask a lot of the people and just be like, dude, that's exactly what happened in my mind when I walked through the door. So again, circling back to marketing, we've tried social media, we've done Instagram, not as much Twitter, where I kind of I've missed that boat as far as personally, just I'm not a Twitterer. Mm-hmm. But we've tried to, we have some connections with some of the the local TV stations, and we've had a commercial here and there. We've also done some radio gift card events where rock solid deals. If you buy a X amount of gift card for X amount of money, you get a certain amount of money, and then the radio station gives us free radio placements, or not really free, but it's a smoke and mirrors compensation event. So that's that. I mean, we've and then of course website and the normal, but we or as well as podcasts. So not only the most recent podcast, Jonathan was available, so he and I were able to discuss on that, but that was more in depth of the process and individuals who were really into beer. Yeah. So it really allowed Jonathan to flourish. And they kind of seized upon firkins, which is a smaller kind of cask conditioned implement to kind of introduce certain flavors and styles that can be more experimental on a smaller scale, and as well as other topics, but they were just seizing on that. And then of course my brother, I mean, he's a massive wealth of knowledge and was able to run with it. And I'm just kind of warning him, I'm gonna be you're about to open up wormhole of firkin here, and we're about to go down it. So prepare for 4 hours of firkin, and even to that, I mean, it wasn't 4 hours, but there was so much information in it that, it was a fun chat. So that's kind of that's kind of the marketing strategy. We try to do a lot of in-house. We ask our staff if they're having a beer, or at home, if they take home cans or something of that nature, just take pictures, just try to increase engagement. We've also had like the most recent like 360 view Google Street View thing occur, where a fella came in, he was really awesome, and took 360 views of our establishment and also coming up, because once again, since we're off the beaten path, to actually have that visual of like, okay, semi dead end street, construction going on, go this way, make a right, and then, you know, that whole entire 360 process. And then I discussed with him, and you know, we've the benefit of Google and just like overall the power of the search engine and such. So we've also tried to put some focus on that as well.
And you also you were mentioning in-house events and things. So being able to continue with live music.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So with the, you know, for every single governor's or Governor Northam's executive order, we cling to it. You know, every press conference, every release, like we read every single word to ensure that, you know, we're following everything to the letter of the mandates and the executive orders. And as of right now, you're allowed to have live music still, as long as they are appropriately spaced from the patrons and other individuals. So we have had to adjust our in-house seating, which extremely reduces our overall capacity, because the tables themselves need to be at least 6 feet distance from each other. There's no more bar seating. So all of the high top ledge bar, you know, bar stool is no more as of now. And so we've tried to do that. I believe, if I recall off the top of my head, as long as the performers are 10 feet distance from the patrons, that is the appropriate. So like what we've done is we've marked off the floor and been like, okay, not only was this like the certain like footprint that the city of Hampton approved for our live performances, but that also kind of serves as the boundary to ensure that there's proper distancing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so like we do live music. Like tonight, we'll actually do adult bingo, where it is definitely geared for adults. I mean, there's no cash prizes. It's all like just fun prizes. You might be able to like win a discount card off your bill to, like, you know, tonight. Other fun stuff, like we have like our you know, our good colleagues that either roll the balls or whatnot, who kind of just have come across fun prizes along like their daily routine and bring it in here, or we put in stickers or koozies or whatever. So that's Tuesdays. Wednesdays, we have we started it with a weekly open mic, but because of the COVID restrictions, open mics are no longer even allowed, even if we were swapping out mics in between any performers. It was just I guess the health department considers open mics akin to karaoke, even though you're like, the performers haven't touched the same microphone. A lot of the performers would even bring their own microphones, but we were told that was still just, unfortunately, that is what they consider. So we're like, cool with it. So our host, who is a good musician, local musician, Jack Green, and his roommate, Jim, now they just perform songs, like their own catalog with a few covers, but a lot of it's like their own originals every Wednesday. Thursdays, we have our trivia night. So our trivia, we do request reservations of tables. So again, we can appropriate space teams at safe distances. But that's we have partnered with some good people to put together some really inquiring, I guess, or enthusiastic questions of multiple like categories. And we have a good base of returning teams that come every Thursday. And also because of the reduced capacity, I mean, we still, it's there are, all the tables are taken, but we're still, we're kind of crunched into trying to do the best we can with that. Then Fridays, music bingo. That's always a good time. We usually have also food trucks are Thursdays, Fridays, most Saturdays as well.
Because
But yeah,
you just have beer. That's right, isn't it?
we do. Yeah, we do not have a kitchen on site. We are literally a craft microbrewery and a tap room. And I forgot exactly the year, but Virginia changed the rules where before that, I believe 2006 is coming to mind. But before that, you actually had to have a kitchen, and kind of like the liquor laws where you had to have a certain percentage of sales that offset the beer and stuff like that. But because we only sell 100% of what we produce on site. That is the critical aspect, where if we decided to have like wine or a cider or something else, we would have to have a kitchen.
Okay.
In the Virginia ABC's rules, which in theory in Virginia there actually are no bars. There are just restaurants that serve liquor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of the nitty gritty of the rules there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you get a variety of food trucks, so people get
we do.
assortment of food.
And that is I mean, for sure. I mean, there is definitely some food truck partners that we've really been really humbled to have their support, and really not only just like our customers, our vibe, but just the overall environment. I mean, has really been a good thing. And but variety definitely is the spice of life for sure for food trucks and such.
Yeah.
On other days where we don't have food trucks, we also have a good relationship with our local Marco's Pizza. They allow us to. They brought us like a pizza warmer, and we're able to do pizza by the slice because they prepare it in their own commercial kitchen and all of that, and then they deliver it, and that also seems to work at times, like Sundays. Sundays are more lazy and chill, but overall a good day. But where it just especially during COVID times, like we just don't really want to. We probably could justify a food truck, but we just last thing we want to do is burn a bridge with a good friend and try to we'll make it work. I would rather have no food truck than have a food truck that doesn't do what they would like to, then only be deterred to come again.
Yeah.
So
I got a question for you. So how's it like working with a sibling?
I mean, there are ups and downs.
How long have you been working with your brother?
Well, we officially opened our doors February 15th, 2018.
Okay.
So certainly ever since then. However, I believe I moved to Virginia from Washington State, I believe June or July of 2017. So, other than working remotely together to kind of ensure things kind of like fire off and have everything we need, especially when I finally arrived into the state, that was since that point in time. So like we had just, I mean, for as far as this business, yes, it's been that time frame. But Jonathan is he's definitely a wizard and a maestro and a master at what he does. And it's like, he's definitely focused when he has his laser focus on the tasks at hand. So, sometimes you have to be like, all right, let's like take a bird's eye view to some things to see if like what's working, what's not, and but overall a good thing. Whereas other companies, have to have a board of directors or something, and if you want to implement a certain like minuscule change, you might have to run this up a flagpole or figure out how to make a simple change. And like where I could just go out here right now, yell down and be like, Jonathan, what do you think of this? Or, or Biden it now, like, call my mom and just be like, yes, no, maybe so, let's do this. And, things can be decided in a heartbeat as opposed to, a long and tedious process.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So how many beers do you generally have?
Usually average, I would say 10. And we, I believe currently today, there's 11 on tap today. But we have a 7-barrel system. We have 3 single batch fermenters, 2 double batch fermenters. And so that means that at any time, we could only really have 5 beers in the oven, if you would. Okay. So that would that was kind of the initial thought process. When Jonathan was doing the initial research for the facility before I even got here, he was just like, well, let's maybe focus on like 5 or so beers, and just try to make those, you know, rock solid pinkies out in their style, and then we can, you know, just like focus on those. Then we did learn quickly in you know, in early on that, you know, customers do like an extreme amount of variety. And even though the individuals that are like extreme, you know, I'm talking about like beer snobs, we gave them a good array, like an IPA, a porter, a red, a cream ale, which is kind of light and golden. And then the 5th one, when we first, a brown ale. So that was the initial array. And a lot of those, we, up until this year, well, actually late, I guess now, you know, 2020, kind of adjusted some of those main beers, which had been on tap since doors open, to allow a little bit more of experimentation to come through. Like our brown ale, which he actually based off of an 18th century Virginia recipe, was top notch. I mean, it was rock solid, and it will be back again. However, he just then developed a oatmeal raisin brown ale recipe to kind of be like the seasonal offering. And he did this from the ground up. Like there was no one else out there that was doing it like this. And like other people, you know, like throw cookies in or something like that to kind of like make it oatmeal cookie, where he just went with there's no cookie in it, you know, just malts. And then he would dose it with like, you know, certain spices at certain intervals. And like right now, I'm pretty sure it's a 7.7%. Like once you receive it in a glass, you're like, oh my man, like this smells amazing. And every sip, you get every little bit of what is almost like an oatmeal cookie in a glass. Also, like initially, I guess being on the smaller of the end of the totem pole, really, we find ourselves like having to obtain and utilize hops differently than other larger breweries, because a lot of times like larger establishments have a hop contract. They are required to use this much hops throughout a year, and they get these certain varieties and they have to use them, and if they don't, then they're penalized of some sort. It's kind of a wild thing. But since we don't have a hop contract, we have to we're at the mercy of whatever hops are available at that particular time in the market. Gotcha. So just like, I mean, again, the reason being a maestro wizard, I mean, is you have to kind of account for the agricultural differences between, you know, like one bag of 2-row pale malt is different than another company's same exact like product that says exactly the same. So it's like how to account for certain differences of the agricultural differences, because, you know, barley grown here differs from barley grown in this field, even though it's the same critter, if that makes sense. Like, you know, soils have different trace elements and things that cause a different certain nuances, and the same as with hops. So like where you could get a batch of, let's say, Magnum hops that have a different alpha acid percentage than others, and how to make the end game product similar in quality assurance to what was expected and appreciated by the patrons. And that's kind of where we've had to, like for IPAs, for instance, like we've had several that have just been like fantastic, but then all of a sudden everybody starts to come in and want these hazy New England IPAs, which use a lot of like Citra or Mosaic hops. And because of those different changes within that establishment, or really the drinking populace, those hops then became more scarce, until then the hop farmers amped up their production, and then, you know, it's kind of like an ebb and flow of supply. So that has also dictated a lot of what, like, not only what different beers we have at times, but also pricing. Like sometimes to get the same exact Mosaic or Citra hops, they've now, like, where before we could buy like a pound, or, you know, actually it was a lot more than a pound, but let's say a pound, and then for, let's say, $20, again, not just pulling numbers out of thin air, but now it's like $35 because of just, again, supply and demand and scarcity.
Yeah.
So
this is super interesting stuff. I'm loving all of it, but we are running out of time, unfortunately.
okay.
It always happens when it starts getting good.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a lot to talk about. It like like there's so much, like, you know, to come into our establishment, you walk through the door, like I said, like you see the vibe or feel the vibe, see the environment, and you know, it's like there's that, but there's so much bubbling under the surface, literally and figuratively, that like it is so much. I mean, it's such an endeavor to have everybody firing on all cylinders to come together like a well-oiled machine. And it's like we have a staff of under 10, and we're able to, you know, knock on wood, pull it off like fairly well. You know, with really our central figure is my brother and his skills and the beer. I mean, if the beer was not as top shelf as it is, I mean, it would be a more of an uphill climb.
Yeah.
But thankfully, he is very good at what he does, and my staff is very good at what they do, and they are able to promote the appreciation of the business, the family, and the products.
Well, I know I'm going to be trying to get out there soon to get a taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. Yeah, I would love to have you in for sure.
Joey is definitely a beer fan, I think.
Right on. We'll definitely bring masks. You know,
we'll bring masks.
100% mask compliant. I mean, my staff will suggest and make sure at the first few times, but then are very on it, and like we'll get to the point of, like, you know, yelling if needed to ensure, because, you know, that not only safety of our patrons but my staff as well.
Very good.
How to get through this, and we will get through this.
Very good.
So yeah, but please, we would love to have you out, and definitely check us out.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Kylie. Anything?
No, it's great to talk to you again, Adam.
Definitely.
Thank you, Adam. Have a great day.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you all very much.